Welcome back to another week here on MWO Sports, brought to you by Coolbet.co. Ryan Drury. I'll be joined by Clarkey as Steve Sabrin is on a well-deserved vacation this week. We will welcome our friend, the Director of Operations at the St. Mary's Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum, Scott Crawford, on to talk about the hall reopening this week. July 20th was the opening. Get down there and check it out. We'll talk about that, the new facility there that everybody can experience, some baseball chat as well. What will the Jays do? Then we'll have a little chat about the NHL Seattle expansion draft, some of the debacle with that situation. ESPN doesn't know the difference, it seems, between the NHL and the NFL. Is Zach Hyman gone for sure? Maybe not, says Clarkey, based on what he's hearing. And we'll be joined by a great friend of the show, head coach of the Wingham Ironmen, Corey Hamilton, to talk about the upcoming PJHL season. And as always, we'll be joined by one of our wagering experts from Coolbet. Pat Gregoire joins us this week to chat about some bets for the Olympics. You're listening to and watching MWO Sports, brought to you by Coolbet.co.
This is MWO Sports.
Welcome back to MWO Sports, brought to you by Coolbet.co. Ryan Drury alongside Clarkey, and we're very pleased to be joined by a great special guest back on the show. I believe his third, maybe even fourth appearance on MWO Sports, the Director of Operations at the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum in beautiful St. Mary's, Ontario, Scott Crawford. Scott, how are you, man?
I'm doing really well. It's a sunny, beautiful night here, and kids are playing ball, and we're talking baseball, so you can't get any better.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. Talk a little bit about what it's been like. Obviously, you guys just reopened on July 20th. And, you mentioned right before we hit record that you had a great opening day. There were lots of people in. What's it been like going through this period, just kind of almost sitting in limbo at the Hall of Fame up until earlier this week?
Yeah, it's been tough. Obviously, I mean, last summer we only got open for 2 months, and this summer we just opened this week. So, I mean, our normal regular hours are about 6 months a year, and then the off season is just pre-booked visits. But so, I mean, the last 2 years have been sort of 2 months or less, and it's been tough. I mean, you just sort of, it was nice to it was good and bad to see that we were in step 3 of the reopening plan. Bad because it took so long. A lot of museums and us thought we should be allowed to open in step 2, and the museum world tried to fight for that, but obviously it didn't happen. And but we knew we could open in step 3, so it's not like we had 2 days notice. Like a lot of times, the last year or two, there's been just a couple of days notice before things are allowed. And so we knew when the day was coming, and so we could plan for it and have the staff here and the museum extra cleaned and the staff trained and open July 20th.
So Scott, besides cleaning, what have you been doing the last year? Anything different inside for fans who have been there before? Yeah,
I mean, and a lot of stuff behind the scenes. We hired a curator. Obviously, Christy's been working very hard on the collection. I've been helping her somewhat too. We've been busy than we normally are, say, with no golf tournament and no induction and whatnot this year, and the museum being closed and the ball fields being closed. It's been busy, but again, we really need to get a jump on our collection and start preserving it. And we've had a real, the last year and a half, we've done a lot more than we ever thought we would.
Scott, just for people that maybe haven't visited the museum before, I mean, I mentioned, I haven't been there since you guys renovated it throughout the year in 2018. I can't wait to come back and check it out and see some of the new stuff that you've put in there. What sort of things can people expect when they walk through the doors at the Hall of Fame and Museum?
Yeah, they're gonna love it. I mean, it's right. Oh, wrong shoulder. Right there is the front door, and it's just all. We did 3 things when we did the expansion. We obviously expanded by 2,500 square feet. We have a room that's rotating displays and exhibits. We have an archive and storage room and our research library. And we renovated the old part of the museum. So you were there last time. It was just the older museum. Well, it's completely done over, professional-like. And then we moved our offices in-house too. Before we had 2 different locations for everything, and it was really complicated and odd for all aspects. So we did sort of 3 phases when we did the expansion in 2018, and people are going to see a beautiful museum that's professionally done and with a lot of cool stories in it.
Scott, what are some of your favorite stories that are inside?
Oh, there's a whole bunch. Because people ask me how long a tour is, and I said, well, do you want the Scott 20-minute tour or the Scott 2-hour tour? And because I could, as being a baseball nut, I could talk forever. I'm sure, like you guys too, your favorite sport. You could talk forever about your favorite sport in baseball and whatnot. I would say some of the highlights. We have Joe Carter's home plate and batting helmet from his World Series winning home run back in '93. Two of the, is the biggest hit in Blue Jay history in my mind, and basically the biggest hit in baseball history. You can't do anything bigger or better than hit the World Series winning home run. So to me, that's the biggest hit in baseball history. And we got the home plate and the batting helmet. So that's pretty cool. That's probably, my top two favorite artifacts. I mean, I don't make it sound like it's nothing. I mean, we have Babe Ruth autographed bat and ball, which are obviously very rare and very unique, but that would be probably a baseball thing, but Canadian wise or Toronto Blue Jay wise would be the home plate and helmet.
That's incredible. I mean, I think that, certainly in our area and for Blue Jays fans, it's enough of an excuse to come down just for that, let alone all the other incredible stuff you have, and including the new 2,500 square feet. I mean, I know people are going to be excited to just get out and look at some of this stuff. You mentioned Babe Ruth. I know you love baseball. We love baseball. Let's talk a little bit about baseball and a guy that's getting compared a lot to Babe Ruth lately, Mr. Shohei Ohtani. I mean, what is your impression of what this guy's doing? And just, you've been watching baseball your whole life, Scott. I mean, how wild is it watching him do what he's doing on the mound and at the plate?
It's obviously very special. I mean, a few people have tried it. It's never really worked. I mean, there's been a few guys that have tried to do it. Last year's fellow Tampa Bay, and there's one with the Cardinals. And Ohtani took a few years to get really comfortable. He obviously had some injury issues. With his arm last in the big league because they train different and pitch less in Japan. He's put it all together this year. There's no doubt. And it is impressive. Early on in the season, I could also compare him to Canadian Tip O'Neill, because Tip O'Neill started out as a pitcher in the 1880s, way different time period, obviously, but 1880s, Tip O'Neill was a pitcher, just like Ohtani and Babe Ruth, and then became one of the best hitters in all of baseball history. And obviously Babe Ruth is a number one with all that. Ohtani's now surpassed Tip O'Neill in his numbers. But it's amazing. Like I just keep waiting for him to run out of energy, or get hurt. I'm not wishing it on him because it's so exciting for baseball, but people don't do this, right? And just wait for one day for him just to get tired. And, that 98 mile an hour fastball is now 95 and people can hit it. And he's got 34 homers. Well, maybe he has a couple that hit go to the warning track instead of over the fence. But he hasn't slowed down yet. And I mean, we all love Vladimir Guerrero, but if Ohtani keeps this up pitching and hitting, that 3-letter MVP award might go Ohtani's way.
And Vladdy Jr. is coming back to Toronto. That's got to be obviously big news for baseball fans everywhere that the Jays are indeed returning to Canada, which is exciting. And this team is pretty exciting right now. They lost a couple this week to Boston, which didn't help their chances. But where do you think they have to go? Obviously, I would think you're going to say pitching, but anywhere else you see this Blue Jay team needing to get over this hump?
Yeah, I know it's pitching like almost every other team. I mean, if you look at their starting 9, how do you improve that, right? I mean, the outfield has 4 starting outfielders, so they're rotating through those 3. Infield with Simeon and Bichette up the middle. Biggio is going to play every day at third base. Vladimir is obviously going to play every day at first base. And then you got the 2 catchers. Catching's been the hitting has been too great for the catching this year, but obviously, there aren't a lot of good hitting catchers. So they might not be great, but if you compare them to all the other teams, it's what catchers do these days. They don't hit very well, majority of them. There's guys like Buster Posey and a few others that hit very, very well, obviously. But, pitching, I mean, they got Ray and they got Ryu as the top 2. Stripling's been on and off, and, it'd be nice. Like Thomas Hatch is going to start, and Minot has been very good. He's just a rookie, and he hurt his back this week, so hopefully he's only going to miss 1 start. And they just need consistency. Obviously, I mean, they had that bad streak in a month ago or whenever it was that the bullpen was blowing everything that was that was had to be blowing. It's tough to be good all the time. Their bullpen took a lot of heat for being bad and wrecking and blowing everything from Chatwood and Dolis and everyone in the bullpen basically, except really Romano. But I think, from where they, with Springer now back in the lineup every day, and they get the bullpen fixed a little bit, I think I think they're going to be right there at the end of the year. I mean, Tampa Bay sounds like they're making a big trade tonight, and that will definitely help their hitting. But, we'll just have to see. We got to play good. We got 2 months, 2.5, 10 weeks left in the season. We better win a lot of games.
I would certainly hope so. And yeah, you mentioned the Rays. I can confirm Mark Feinsand is reporting as we record this show that the Tampa Bay Rays have made a big play and acquired Nelson Cruz, the 41-year-old slugger from the Minnesota Twins. It looks like the Twins are going to pack it in for the year, and I think they probably should based on the year they've had. So that's obviously a pretty significant deal for them. But like you said, Scott, I mean, I don't know where this team really needs to improve in terms of the Blue Jays, in terms of hitting. I think outside of pitching, would you maybe say if they could, maybe not even this year, it would be kind of a hard trade to shake, but maybe they'd like a more well-rounded third baseman. Biggio's looked okay there, but he's a second baseman by trade. Would you say that maybe that would be a guy defensively anyway that they would maybe look at in the offseason?
Yeah, I've always liked Biggio at second base. I don't like the fact that he moves around so much. There's been very few players that are successful at it. Obviously, Ben Zobrist was a decade ago, and there's 3 or 4 other guys now that are good and can play 4 or 5 positions and still hit well. If I had my take, I would put Biggio at second and go get a third baseman next year. They got a couple guys at Double-A, their top draft picks the last couple of years. They're playing at Double-A. Sort of, they missed last year because of the COVID. And so I'm not sure if they're going to be ready come spring training for the big leagues. They might be. They're both having good years at Double-A. But the question mark could be Semien. I mean, what do you do with Semien next year? You're wearing your Oakland A's hat, so obviously you know a lot about him playing for Oakland last year, and he's having another great year. He's an all-star. He's one of the top, whether he plays shortstop or second, he's still one of the top middle infield hitters in all of baseball. And, he's on a 1-year deal. So what do you do with him next year? And again, if he obviously is a shortstop, but I don't think the Jays are moving Bichette anywhere off short. And, will Semien play third? Will they keep him at second? He's going to want $80 million at least. And will the Jays shell that out too? So Semien's going to be an interesting question in the offseason for sure.
Did you watch just to change topics a little, did you watch the women Canadian softball team at the Olympics these last couple of days? I watched them beat Mexico and then lost a heartbreaker to the U.S. last night. Yeah, no, and it's such great ball. I mean, there's obviously differences between basketball and baseball, but they're both ball and they're both amazing. And obviously, unfortunately, Canada's baseball team didn't make it. So the cheer on the women's fastball team is great. There's some very well-known ladies on that team. Brett Laurie's sister plays on that team, and Jason Bay's sister plays on that team. They both played in the 2008 Olympics last time basketball was in the Olympics or softball was in the Olympics. So it's really cool. They've come back and played, and they're 2 of the top players on the game or on the teams in those games. And it's going to be exciting. We got a couple more games. I think, unfortunately, the Olympics haven't officially started until this weekend. Yet most of the fastball is going to be over. So I think some people are even forgetting it's on, but it's so they're so talented and the game is so fast and played so sharp. It's amazing to watch. It is. I'm sort of disappointed I'm a fastball guy. I've coached women's fast pitch for a long time, and just playing on a baseball diamond just doesn't look right to me. I wish it was a complete softball diamond, but you get used to it, I guess, at the end. Yeah, no, it's all the same dimensions, right? It's all the same dimensions, just looks different. Yeah, it does definitely look different. You see the fence sort of halfway out, whatever the dimensions are for Olympic fastball. But as long as we win, we'll play on any field. That's right. And they showed last night, I think, that they can compete. They need to get the bats going against the Americans, but boy, the pitching was good last night. That's for sure. Yeah, no, they're a top team and exciting. And we finished 4th. I know 2008 was a long time ago, but again, that was last time it was in the Olympics. And we finished 4th in the Olympics. So, and we're still one of the top countries in the world for fastball, or softball. So it's exciting. It is exciting, and our viewers and listeners will remember that we had Clarkey's old friend Janet Leung on the show before she headed over to Tokyo. You can go back and listen to that on the podcast on cknx.ca and all your favorite podcast apps. Scott, before we let you go, I just want to ask you quickly. I mean, usually when we have you on, we're talking about what's going on with inductions and things like that. Looking forward to getting back to that next year, we hope. I want to ask you, we've had a nice chat about baseball, it seems, for once, which is fun
fun to do. We talked a little bit about Babe Ruth. We talked about Ohtani. Who, in your opinion, is the best hitter of all time?
Oh, that's a question and a half. I like the combination of hit, the 5 tools. All time I talk about my favorites. Obviously Ted Williams and Babe Ruth and Willie Mays and Ty Cobb. You look at those guys. Maybe you have to go into, and I'll say a name and everyone else have 10 different names. That's for sure. But, Willie Mays had the speed, the defense, the power, and the average. It's hard to argue with that, but if each of you guys give me one name too, I won't be able to argue with you guys either, because there's so many great names. But Willie had an all-around game. I like the all-around game. There's a lot of people that can just hit home runs and hit 220 or steal 40 bases and hit 1 home run. But if you can do the all-around 5-tool game, that you're the ultimate player.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you'd have a tougher time finding somebody better at that than Willie Mays. Absolutely. I'd have a hard time arguing there. I'll say Ted Williams, but I'm not going to argue with you with Willie Mays. It's a great argument to have, and that's what's great about baseball. Scott, we really appreciate this. We're so glad that the museum and the Hall of Fame is back open. It's in St. Mary's, guys. If you want to have a great afternoon checking out some great articles and different things, memorabilia, go to St. Mary's and check out the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame Museum. Scott will greet you at the door and give you the 2-hour tour.
That's right. Don't let that scare you away. I'll give you a 20-minute tour too. So no, that's great. Appreciate it, Ryan.
Absolutely, Scott. We really appreciate this, my friend. Best of luck going forward this summer. Hope lots of people are coming through the doors. I know I'll be there. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Chris.
Hey, we got to go down there, Ryan? We got to
absolutely.
You and I. Let's just go.
Let's go down. Yeah, you want to make a day of it? I'm absolutely down to go down there with you, man.
Yeah.
I like I said to Scott, who's always great when he comes on the show. I haven't been down in a while since.
I'm embarrassed to say I've never been.
You've never been. Clarkey.
I'm embarrassed to say it.
It's done. We're going.
We got to get Sabby maybe too. Where's Sabby, by the way?
Sabs will come. Sabs is on, like I mentioned earlier in the intro, he is on a much deserved vacation.
Oh yeah.
So he is, I think he's actually doing like a staycation. I don't think he's even really doing anything fancy, but
he's got 2 dogs and a cat and kids and everything else. So
yeah, I'm losing track of all the animals he's got there. Yeah.
He names his animals after food. You notice that? Fritter and I don't know what else, but Fritter is one of them for sure.
Yeah, Fritter's a great dog too. Yeah, it's a great name, Quality Donut. Something that wasn't quality though, Clarkey, and 1,000,000%. You want to go? We're going to the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame. Everybody should see it. Something that wasn't quality was the NHL's most recent expansion draft. Let's start there. Seattle Kraken, obviously the news of the week. They have selected their team. Raised some eyebrows. They had a lot of players that were of pretty high quality. Yes, high cap hits, the Tarasenkos, the Prices of the world, and what have you. Didn't pick those guys. Now, they did take, Mark Giordano, which is, I think, the most significant loss of any single team. The Calgary Flames lost their captain. Jordan Eberle, guys like that. I was sad that the Capitals lost Vitek Vanacek. But on top of the somewhat questionable. And I guess I understand what Ron Francis is doing. He wants as much cap space as possible, different approach to Vegas. Fine. On top of that, though, there were a number of things that just made it a lackluster event, AKA typical NHL. They can't get anything right. And ESPN is the new rights holder along with TNT. And they did a broadcast of it, of course. And we were calling teams NFL names. We were messing up player names. Apparently the Carolina Hurricanes have melded with the Carolina Panthers. They are now one franchise. And I did think the Carolina Hurricanes social media people need a props. They have changed their profile picture to the Carolina Panthers colors. They changed their handle to @Panthers. It's amazing. So they took it in stride. But, on top of that, everybody knew what all the picks were.
I know. It was ridiculous.
Steve Yzerman. How did Steve Yzerman manage to be the only guy where it was like, I guess everybody will tune in at 8 to hear who Detroit lost?
Yeah, who cares?
I
know. I don't get it. I don't understand how it all leaked out. Like we knew that Carey Price wasn't going to get picked. We knew, I mean, yeah, it was very bizarre.
Reporters are reporters. They're going to do their thing, but should there not have been some sort of, gentleman's agreement? Like, we're not going to tell anybody. You don't tell anybody. Because the NHL, like, it's great having the insiders and the reporters breaking stuff, and that's awesome. Yeah. But for a marquee event like this, and I'm sure Seattle's probably pissed. Jerry Bruckheimer and the guys are probably, silently in a room behind the scenes, really mad. They just paid $600 million.
Like, that didn't, I don't remember that happening in Vegas.
Not to this extent. Like, we all knew they were taking Marc-Andre Fleury and oh my gosh, Derek Engelland. They made that very public.
Yeah. Well, Engelland, he was a local, right?
He's the local guy, and Fleury as well, because they wanted to have those two guys on stage at the event and let everyone know these two dudes are on the team. They're going to be there. Yeah, but the rest of the roster, we didn't know.
I was a little torn on Wednesday night because Team Canada was playing the USA at 8:00.
That's
and
right.
The Kraken expansion draft was 8:00. Well, by 3 p.m, I seem to have known everyone they were picking, including the greatest. He'll go down as one of the best Leafs of all time, Jared McCann. I guess they would rather have lost McCann than Alex Kerfoot, and that's why they made the deal. I'm sure Dubas, I'm talking about, was probably spoke to Ronnie Francis before the expansion draft and said, "Hey, if we get this guy, would you take him?" And I'm sure there was a little agreement there, so it cost them a 7th and some guy I've never heard of.
Philip Hollander,
yeah. So at the end of the day, I was sort of looking forward to Jared McCann, Stratford guy, right? Playing for the Leafs, but he's gone. Mm-hmm. He's gone to Seattle. And Carey Price. We knew in the morning they weren't taking Carey Price. Like, what? I was like, what's going on? How do we know they're not taking Carey Price already? Not that I thought they were going to take him anyway. I think Montreal wanted them to take him. I really do. I think that was their way out of that contract.
To a degree, probably.
I really think they wanted them to take him, but at the end of the day, he's still a Montreal Canadian, and they have 15, 16 million wrapped up in 2 goalies again. So we'll see. I talked to one of our guys, a little colleague of yours now, Tom Williscraft, a big Montreal fan. And we, of course, had a little wager on the playoffs, and now it's a double or nothing. I don't think Montreal's going to make the playoffs next year, and it's a double or nothing bet. So we'll see what happens with Tom and I's bet. We'll keep track of that.
Yeah, you might come out okay there. I mean, Montreal's.
He said to me, and this is what set me off, Carey Price, best chance to win a cup would be with Montreal. And I'm like Montreal or who? Like, are you talking about Montreal and Seattle, or are you talking Montreal and the field? Anyway, that's where it started. And I said, I won't say what I said, but
yeah, well, we'll leave that between you.
Yeah. Anyway,
I understand. And actually, you know what? That was one of the few moves that I actually thought was a good play by Ron Francis. Not because I understand it, because people are going, oh, well, look what Vegas did with Fleury and all this stuff. First of all, Marc-Andre Fleury was making $3 million less, and $3 million will do a lot for you in terms of depth. That's a really solid.
Yeah, but how much has the cap gone up? How much has the cap gone up since Vegas picked?
Not at all.
In 3 years, the cap has certainly gone up.
It didn't go up. It's been 81.5 for about 4 or 5 years now.
Okay.
It's been static. That's why the Leafs signed all those big contracts.
I know. You don't have to. Don't go there. Don't go there.
Because they thought probably 2 years ago that by now it would maybe be something like 90, right? Yeah, and it probably would be under normal non-pandemic.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But I supported it because, first of all, Fleury making less money. He was a little bit younger, or, well, maybe about the same age as Price, but also not the nagging injury history that has dogged Price with the hips and the knees. Fleury's had some injury, sure, not to this extent. Price is going to need surgery. And now Shea Weber, it's sounding like his career might be over, which the Nashville Predators are crossing their fingers.
That it's not over.
Yes,
because they're going to get major hit, and so will Montreal, right? Like, it's going to.
They'll absorb some of it. They will have to absorb some of it. It's a joke, though. The whole cap recapture thing's stupid. The NHL.
Yeah, but there was a rule.
Take 1 step forward, 3 steps back. I don't know. Anyway, it was. a very anticlimactic draft, and I don't even really feel like talking about it anymore because what else is there to say?
Yeah, I don't think I came out just to wrap that up. I don't think I came off the Vegas expansion draft thinking they were going to compete for a Stanley Cup, which they obviously did.
I didn't. I said they'd finish last.
Right. So that's why people are saying now that Seattle didn't do near as good a job as Vegas did. Well, but when the Vegas draft happened, as you said, a lot of people thought they would be last. So anyway, we'll see. Time will tell. The thing that is resonating with me though is there was a lack of, okay, I'll give you some draft picks if you don't pick this guy. Like there was a lot of wheeling and dealing when Vegas did it. And I think teams learned that, you know what, we're not doing that anymore.
No.
Vegas got too good of a team and we're not doing it anymore. So I think Seattle were handicapped a little bit with that. So
I completely agree. You look at what Florida and Minnesota in particular did the Vegas draft. Well, they didn't do anything near that this time around.
Right.
Let's talk quickly as well. Zach Hyman, there's some conflicting rumors now. Sounds like he's maybe going to Edmonton, but Clarkey, you're hearing that it might not quite be done yet.
Well, it's not done yet. Well, first of all, it can't be done.
It's not official.
Unless the Leafs trade him.
As we record this, it's not official. Nothing's happened.
The Leafs have to trade him for Edmonton to sign him right now.
To an 8-year deal. Yes.
To any deal. They can't sign him unless the Leafs trade him.
Well, he's a free agent. He could sign.
He's not a free agent yet, Ryan. He's not a free agent until free agency day. So the Leafs have to trade him. And the Leafs, they can't sign him to an 8-year deal, even if the Leafs did trade him. The Leafs would have to sign him to an 8-year deal, then trade him.
The sign and
trade. The only team that can sign him to an 8-year deal. Anyway, he's not worth the money. He's not worth 5.5. I'm sorry, but he's not. Is he a good player? Yeah. Would the Leafs maybe go up to 5? Yeah, maybe. But I don't know.
5 on like a 4-year deal, maybe. I don't think they want to give him the term. He's 29, and again, we've talked at length about this guy and what he represents.
Yeah, I agree.
I understand, but I want to say something that I've said previously that some Toronto fans will hate me for, and that's fine. I don't care. Yep. He is an extremely replaceable player.
I 100% agree with you, which doesn't happen very often.
I know.
I agree.
And so we should end the segment now and save this moment for posterity. I
totally
love
agree.
Zach Hyman.
So do I.
I love what this guy's all about.
Yeah, I agree.
No, I don't want him for 5. If Brian McClellan's listening right now, Washington, don't give this guy $5 million.
I would rather have Nick Foligno.
What does I'm inclined to agree at a cheaper deal, because for instance, for my team, if Brian McClellan for some reason called me and said, Ryan, do you think we should sign Zach Hyman? I'd say, what does Zach Hyman do at 5.5 that Lars Eller isn't already doing for you at 3.5?
Exactly. You're right.
I love Zach Hyman. I love the work ethic. I love the never say die forecheck. I love it. He's an extremely replaceable player.
Yep.
Okay. Not necessarily a replaceable person or personality in the dressing room. Fine. But
or
about his skill set, endorsements. Yeah. Insurance commercials. Yes.
Like whatever. Do you think he'll get those in Edmonton? I don't know.
Connor takes up a lot of air.
Yeah, no kidding. And this guy's getting it in Toronto. He's getting it now with the guys they have.
Yeah, well, Toronto loves the pluggers, right? Like fourth line players in Toronto get commercials, right?
I think it's the Toronto. It's what do they call it? The Toronto syndrome, where a guy in Toronto gets overinflated, and someone's going to overpay for this guy. And go ahead, Edmonton, overpay. Go.
I agree. Really quick as well. NFL news at a weird time of year. OTAs are over, all that stuff. The NFL has informed clubs if a game can't be rescheduled during the 18-week season this year due to a COVID outbreak among unvaccinated players, the team with the outbreak will forfeit and be credited with a loss. Very significant news here, Clarkey. Do you agree with what the NFL is doing here?
Of course, I agree with it. But you're not going to force. You're not going to force the anti-vaxxers to get the vaccine. That's the thing. They they're
forcing them without really forcing them, aren't they?
You can't force them. But how would you like to be the group of 10 to make your team miss the playoffs or whatever it would be? Yeah, well,
there's a guy in Buffalo that's been pretty vocal lately. Can you imagine if the Bills missed the playoffs by 1 win?
Well, not only that, but this variant is like taken over again in the States, and it's 99% of the people in hospital are without vaccines. That
You're
should
absolutely
tell you
right,
everything.
man.
I'm not telling anyone to get one. I'm just saying, here are the facts.
Here are the facts. As the conspiracy theory crowd likes to say a lot, do your research. Watch what websites you're using, though, folks. All right.
Exactly.
We really appreciate Scott Crawford joining us. Clarkey, you're out of here. When we come back, I will sit down and chat with Wingham Ironmen head coach Corey Hamilton about the upcoming season and the outlook for the Ironmen, who were so close to maybe winning a title a couple years ago when it was taken away from us by the pandemic. And of course, I will chat with Pat Gregoire, our wagering expert from Coolbet, right after that here on MWO Sports, brought to you by Coolbet.co.
This is MWO Sports.
Welcome back to MWO Sports, brought to you by Coolbet.co. Ryan Drury, and I'm very pleased to be joined by a great special guest, friend of the show and friend of CKNX Junior Hockey, Mr. Corey Hamilton, the head coach of the Wingham Ironmen. Hammer, how are you, buddy?
I'm great, boys. How are you guys doing?
We're doing very well. I know. Yeah, it's been a little while since we've had you on. I mean, at least since back in the spring when it looked like things were going to maybe start opening up again, and unfortunately they didn't. But now we know that since the last time we've talked to you anyway, that we're going to have hockey again. And what a breath of fresh air. What a relief that is. We're going to be starting up the league in October. I can't wait. I'm sure you feel the exact same, my friend.
Yeah, I'll be honest. It's up until maybe a month or so ago, it's kind of like, is this really happening? I don't know. I don't want to get too excited and then get crushed again. But I truly am starting to really feel like this is happening, and I'm starting to get the mojo going here a little bit myself.
I can't wait. Yeah, it's going to be awesome, and I know you're one of the more passionate coaches in the league for sure. I've seen your routine on the bench, so I'm very excited to be a party to that again and just call this great league that we all love. Let's talk about the league a little bit. I mean, what's the last few weeks been like for you and the management team in terms of getting returnees, new signings? I mean, what kind of work have you guys been up to? Can you give us any inside scoops on anything?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, Wayne and myself, and a few of the coaches, Dawson Smith, for instance, we've been keeping in touch. Especially the things have been ramping up the last month, maybe 2 months, kind of with some discussions around players, and more recently, kind of talking about scheduling for camp and that sort of thing. So, it's definitely, maybe this is why the mojo's starting to go. We're starting to talk about real dates and players and signings and this and that. So. Yeah, it's starting to definitely feel real. It's been feels like forever. A lot of things have kind of happened. I mean, you look back to when we were last able to coach and do what we love, and it was kind of like, I know I said this last time we talked, Ryan, a while ago. We got the rug pulled out from under us in the finals there against Mount Forest, and it's definitely been a bit of a yo-yo over the last year. Get exciting and then let down, and then. So, and I know every team's going through the same thing, but right now we're starting to plan and get things ready to go for probably late August for kind of a bit of a, kind of get the rust off skate, and then we'll roll into a rookie skate early September. And then right from there, we'll get right into main camp and try not to waste too much time getting our team ready.
Well, I'll probably poke my head in the door and check some of that out because I just miss the smell of an ice rink. I mean, there's something about a hockey rink in a small town. I just love the smell of it, the sound of it. There's nothing that can match it. And Hammer, you mentioned, last time you guys were able to coach and be on the ice, you really did have the rug pulled out from under you. And I know we've kind of, beat this topic to death, in talking to you over the last year of this pandemic we've all been through, but probably one of the most unfair sporting things that I've ever been a part of is seeing what happened to your Wingham Ironmen that year and the Mount Forest Patriots, the defending champs. We were sitting at a 1-1 series tie after an unbelievable game 2. We thought, boy, this is going to be a 6 or 7 game war. The Ironmen are ready to kick the door down, it seemed. And I mean, how long has it taken you, or have you even been able to get over how bitterly disappointing that situation was? Will you ever get over it?
I think I'm probably over it now, but at the end of the day, when you take a second to kind of think back to what it was like, what the situation was that we were in, it certainly leaves a little bit of a pain in your heart to know. And I'm sure Mount Forest feels the same way. We were two good teams. We worked hard. We made lots of moves. We in our situation, we had guys that kind of were there through the grind. We lost to Mount Forest 2 years in a row, the previous two playoffs rounds. Or playoff seasons, and we felt like we were ready for some revenge. We felt our team was in a good spot, and you know what? At the end of the day, I'm sure they felt the same way as well. So I think, as much as it hurts, there's nothing anybody can do. Everybody went through the same type of stuff at all different levels of sports and life in general. So as much as it sucked, you got to kind of move on and try to get over it. And I do, as much. As coaches, yes, we felt like we put a lot of work into it, and management and everybody that's involved with the organization. But the ones I feel for the most are the players, especially the overage guys that just really never got a chance to come back in and kind of redeem themselves or kind of finish things off the way they deserve to. The older guys. So those are the guys I feel for the most. But again, you look at what happened last year with a full season that never happened. And, that 99 group for us was a pretty special group that we had ready to go. And, those guys too, I mean, they got absolutely, hopefully I can say this on here, screwed. They got screwed over. But again, everybody went through the same thing. All the teams probably had a lot of good players that went through the same letdown, and so here we are finally talking about real hockey, and I really hope that everything goes off without a hitch here in October, and we can get back to normal.
Me too, Hammer. And I know I speak for Steve and Scott Bridge and our entire CKNX junior hockey crew when we say we're just so excited that we can actually talk about a real season with people like you that we love to cover and have these chats with. It's nice to kind of finally be putting that word pandemic behind us a little bit anyway. In terms of sports, you mentioned, again, I don't want to look too far into the past again here, and we can look to the future after this, but you mentioned some of those special players. I mean, we're talking about the Wingham Ironmen here with you, and I think of that team that you guys put together that year and some of the guys that we're just not going to get to see again, and a really special team you mentioned. I mean, you think about the Toltons, the Collinsons, I mean, just so many good players, and him in particular, and you can mention some of the other guys, but Carter Collinson, boy, I felt really bad for him. A kid that just, bled Wingham Ironman gold and blue. He was such a great team guy. And for my money, probably the best defenseman and one of the best players I've ever seen play in the league. And I've been watching the league a long time. Just talk a bit about what it was like having that guy in your locker room every day and knowing how easy it was. I remember watching a documentary years ago, not to, put too lofty of a name next to Carter's, but I remember watching a Nick Lidstrom documentary years ago, and when Mike Babcock was the coach, going, it's the easiest thing to pencil in on my team sheet. And I felt like Carter was that for you. What was that like as a coach to have a guy where it was just automatic? You knew you were going to get the very best every night.
Well, I first got a taste of Carter probably back when I was wearing my scouting hat, but then coaching my year before I started with the Ironman, Carter actually had played with a little bit with the Listowel midgets, and we were lucky. I coached the Kincardine midgets, and we were really lucky. Carter, I mean, I obviously hate saying this, but he had a bad injury, and so we were able to kind of cruise through that playoff series, knowing that he wasn't in the series. That gave us a huge advantage, and then. Rolling in the next year, obviously taking the job with the Ironman, he was probably the guy that I was excited to coach and to, hopefully build a team around, as well as Logan and a few other guys. I mean, Reese Falmer and Chase Mears obviously are two pretty special players as well. Back to Carter for a second. The guy, he was reference Babcock talking about Lidstrom there. Like, you never had to worry about Carter. He showed up. His competitive juices were never something you ever had to worry about. And that definitely rubbed off on everybody. And it didn't matter whether you're playing Goderich or you're playing Mount Forest. It didn't matter. He was wanting to, when he put the gear on, it was all systems go. And special player, probably you can't replace a guy like that. You just have to find some, maybe two guys that can kind of fill the void of what he did for us. And the good thing is he got to rub off on a lot of players that are still in our system. And I say that for Chase Mears and Reese Vollmer and Logan Tolton, and even Corey Restool, who never got to, he might have been the odd guy out for us last year, but he still had an impact on our lineup and our young guys that we will still have coming back. And so those guys, although they got kind of screwed out of a year, last year we did do a little bit of skating and stuff where we were able to kind of keep ourselves going just in the event, maybe by a stroke of luck we were able to play. Those guys were always committed. They were there as older guys. They could have easily said, you know what, screw that. I different things going on, but they were there. They were keen. And, that shows a lot about their character, but we'll miss those guys big time. But they did a great job for us. They got the rug pulled out of them just like the rest of us did. Who knows what would have happened in that series, but they did leave a lasting impression. They were great Ironmen and guys that I'll look back on someday and be very honored to be able to have coached.
Absolutely. Well said. I don't think I could put it better myself. And yeah, that's something that'll stick with us as well as broadcasters. The what if, what great hockey we could have been in store for. And it's something we'll unfortunately never get back. You mentioned looking forward though, excited. We're going to get hockey again. And I'm so pumped up. You rattled off a good 3 or 4 names there that you're going to have coming back. That's a pretty good returning core. I mean, it sounds like you guys are going to be set up for another good season.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Wayne in conversation this week brought to my attention and I won't get into too many names here. I don't know how many people will see this interview, but there was a team, I guess, that asked for Wayne, how our rebuild's going. And I thought that was kind of interesting. But, a little bit of fuel on the fire, perhaps, whatever it takes to kind of get you going. But I certainly don't necessarily feel like we're rebuilding. I mean, maybe we're all rebuilding in some ways, without 2 years or so of hockey. But I feel like with the guys we have returning and the guys we had signed to come back here to play for us for the first time last year, and so far, Austin Becker signed already. Some of those guys that we were really excited to see in their rookie years last year are now a year older, a year bigger, a year more mature. And so I think the league is going to get to see a lot of these young guys that, are going to come in an extra year older and probably right away impactful into their with their teams. And we have a handful of those guys that we're pretty excited to get going and to see how they fit into our lineup and to see how they fit into what we're trying to do. Certainly, there's going to be some new lines like Kyle Stanbury. He was pretty stuck with Reese Vollmer. That pairing's no longer there. So it's kind of finding new different combinations of guys that are going to work together. And that's all the fun stuff that as coaches we're looking forward to.
Absolutely. I agree. And I think it's one of those things that, I think people take for granted, at least from your guys' perspective, is, you go to the rink, you see the players. People don't often consider all of the tinkering that needs to go on behind the scenes to make a junior hockey club run. And you guys are one of the best organizations around for doing that. So I'm so excited to be calling Wingham Ironmen games again down at the Westcast. It's going to be fantastic, man. And I can promise you this: we won't call it a Wingham Ironman rebuild. We'll call it a revamp. How's that?
Well, hey, honestly, we got to prove ourselves on the ice. But I look at how many guys we have able to return, minus the guys that we already mentioned that are aged out. We got both of our goaltenders back. Same goaltenders that we had in the finals 2 years ago. Devin Carson, I'm sure he's chomping at the bit to get that net back. Dawson Farr, I thought he was starting to become a man out there, in his rookie season with us. Colson Fisher on the back end. And there's a handful of guys that, the league hasn't even seen that we had signed heading into last year that I think are going to be pretty good players. And then up front, I already mentioned Kyle Stanbury. Matty Tolton's back with us again. So he wasn't there that last year. He was with Elmira. So he's back and keen. And there's a bunch of Tanner Reed. There's a whole bunch of these guys that I think, a year or two older, bigger, stronger, boys turn to men, all these things. Everybody's hungry to get out there. So, and again, I know every team's in the same situation. So I don't want to sit here and say that we're the only team that's like this, but we do feel like our guys are I can just tell by the conversations that I'm having with these guys that they're ready. They're ready to get back.
Awesome. I'm excited to hear it, man. Don't call it a rebuild in Wingham, ladies and gentlemen. You heard it right from the horse's mouth. Corey Hamilton, the head coach of the Wingham Ironmen. Buddy, I really appreciate this. I can't wait to see you at the rink. Enjoy your vacation. I know you're at the lake right now. Enjoy it, and I can't wait to see you at the rink, my friend. Thank you.
I can't wait to see you guys. I know that will make things real. See you guys. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Thanks, Corey. All right, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll wrap up the show as always with our wagering expert, Pat Gregoire from Coolbet here on MWO Sports, brought to you by Coolbet.co.
This is MWO Sports.
Back to wrap things up here on MWO Sports, brought to you by Coolbet.co for the week. Ryan Drury, pleased to be joined by our wagering expert from Coolbet. It's Mr. Pat Gregoire. Pat, how you doing, brother?
Doing good because I'm here on MWO Sports, so can't complain, buddy.
Absolutely, that's good. Yeah, we wouldn't hear your complaint anyway. We'd file it away somewhere
Yeah,
and never
exactly.
look at it again. Let's talk a little bit Olympics, man. I mean, it's a bit of a light sports weekend. Of course, baseball's on, but all eyes turning toward Tokyo, despite some concerns with the virus over there. The game's going ahead so far anyway. So let's talk some Olympics. I know you've got some bets you have in mind here for the folks listening and watching. Let's start with women's soccer. What have you got?
Yeah, so women's soccer opened up their campaign against Japan with a draw. And despite the rankings for these two teams, Japan was actually the favorite to win. So a solid result for Canada. But I'm looking at their next match on Sunday against Chile. And there's two bets here that I think I'm looking for. The first one is -2 against Chile, and it's tough. I don't like laying that number usually in soccer, but I think there's just a big disparage between the two teams in terms of talent, and especially with the way that this tournament has unfolded to start with the U.S. losing to Sweden. This thing is wide open, and I think that Canada realizes that this is a big opportunity to win a medal. And I think they're going to want to come out with a statement victory here. Obviously, that Christine Sinclair, the GOAT, has shown no signs of slowing down as well, scoring in that first game. I think they realize this is obviously her chance to find on herself on the podium. So I think a 3-goal victory is a big ask. But I think it can be done. I like the value at plus a 140. And if you're not too sure about that, take a look at the over 2.5 as well, because a 2-1 victory for Canada cashes that. You won't win your plus or your -2 bet, but at least you have a little bit of a hedge there with that one.
Absolutely. I love that bet. And like you said, Christine Sinclair, the wily veteran, the all-time leader in international goals for female or male players. She just keeps on smashing volleys. She's not going to stop. And if Canada does win 3-0 or 3-1, she's probably a good bet to get all three of those. She's always goal hungry and it's fun to watch. All right, Corey Connors and Matt Hughes. These two guys have been heating up on the PGA Tour. Another impressive performance out of both of them. A little bit of a sloppy end at the Open, but these two guys have a really good chance at potentially medaling for Canada. What's the bet here?
So right now, you know what? It is a little bit of a long shot. It is a little bit of a homer play, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to sprinkle a little bit on Corey Connors at 34 to 1 and Mac Hughes at 39 to 1 to win gold. Yes, win gold. And for me, I think they do have a legitimate shot. Yes, it's an impressive field with some of the biggest names in golf, John Rahm, Colin Morikawa. But I think these guys have been playing unbelievable golf. Like you mentioned, Corey Connors, a little bit of a disappointing finish to his weekend at the Open Championship. Mac Hughes, though, has been very strong. So I do think these two guys have a legitimate chance to be in contention come Saturday. And note that it's actually going to start on Wednesday. So make sure you get that bet in as well. And check back early next week as well, because Coolbet is going to be offering all different sorts of odds. And there might be a special for those two guys to be combined for a medal. So take a look at that. And I think that's a bet that you'll want to take as well.
Absolutely. I'll be hammering that bet. I mean, I love that at 39 and 40 to 1 respectively. I mean, that's just a win-win right there on two guys that absolutely have a shot despite the field at winning gold. All right, let's talk about USA basketball. I know you wanted to highlight one of their games as well. Bit of a weird entrance into the tournament. I wish we could talk about Canada playing, but they failed us again. But a bit of a stumbling block heading in, a couple of uncharacteristic, I guess we'll will call them losses, particularly against Nigeria for USA Basketball. What's the bet here?
Yeah, so I think a lot of people are kind of questioning, okay, what Team USA are we going to see? They have had some impressive exhibitions, but obviously there was that 2-game stretch where they lost to inferior opponents. I think, though, that this is a far too talented U.S. team that's going to come out and they're going to want to prove that they are the heavy favorites for a reason. They're taking on France, who has some very good, strong NBA talent led by Rudy Gobert. I believe they have 5 NBA players on that roster. So it is a tough opponent. But I think Kevin Durant, who's going to be leading this team, just watch Giannis and the Bucks win in a year that he was supposed to win with the Nets. So I think he's going to have a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. A lot of people are starting to maybe doubt if this dream team is a dream team. Obviously, there are some big names not on the roster, but still, so much talent. It's 11.5 points. It does seem like it's a big number, but when you stack the 2 rosters against each other and what's on the line, more than just a medal and records in the Olympics, it's also bragging rights here. And I think that they can get it done.
I do too. 11.5, I believe, the spread against France. And
yes.
I like them to cover that as well. I mean, KD and the boys are going to show up hungry and they're going to want to prove a point, like you said. All right, Pat Gregoire, that's why he's our expert from Coolbet. That's why you listen to him, and that's why you're going to cash in with his advice. Pat, we really appreciate it, bud.
No problem. Enjoy the games, guys.
We absolutely will. Olympics is always a fun time. All right, everybody. We appreciate you listening to and watching the show. Remember, you can listen live on Friday nights, 6 p.m. on CKNX AM 920 and CKNX.ca. Watch the show Friday nights at 8, Sunday nights at 9 with our friends on Whiteman TV. Find us on our YouTube channel, debuting live on YouTube on Friday nights at 9. And you can find the podcast on all the best podcast apps. Follow us on social media at MWO_sports. For myself, Ryan Drury, Clarkey, and Steve Sabrin, our wagering expert, Pat Gregoire from Coolbet. We appreciate you listening to and watching MWO Sports, brought to you by Coolbet.co.